Yeah. You don't make friends that way. And in New York, you could be like, hey, man, let's go to this deli and get a sandwich. And I'll be like, yo, I fuck with you. You know the best delis. Mm-hmm. And if you take me to a fucking corner store and be like, hey, dog, let's eat here. I beat your ass. Yup. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another phenomenal episode of My Mama Told Me, the podcast where we dive deep into the pockets of Black conspiracy theories, and we finally work to prove that the P in Swaggy P actually stands for proletariat. That's right, Nick Young has been a Marxist this entire time. His whole basketball career was just a political statement, and you motherfuckers weren't paying attention. The man is trying to introduce equality in a different way in America, and you guys have been treating him like a fool, but not me. I get it, Swaggy proletariat. I'm aware of the work that you're doing. I'm your host, Langston Kerman. As always, very excited to be here. I'm pumped. I'm feeling good. I took a big old dump before I got in. So I'm empty. I'm loose. You know what I mean? You got to come in loose, and buddy, I'm loose. And you know who else is loose? You know who else is, I have to imagine, takes big dumps and feels good about them, is my guest today. My guest today, he's such a funny fucking guy. He's so hilarious. You know him from his work on Sherman's Showcase. You know him from Comedy Central. You know him most importantly from his brand new sketch show called Sneak This on BR Kicks. So funny, so talented. Give it up for my guest, Mr. Rob Haze.
Yeah. I did not know that about Swaggy P.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's all in there if you pay attention.
It makes sense. He shot the three and then turned around because he didn't want to look at capitalism. It all makes sense. Yeah.
He's like, you all are making the mistake of celebrating these big grand achievements when we should be sharing it, mixing it amongst the people, you know?
For sure.
You seem sold, and that's why I like you, Rob. It's how easily you're swayed by my bullshit. You came to us today. I don't want to fuck around here, Rob.
Okay.
I don't want to gibber and jabber here, because you came to us today with a conspiracy theory that I said this to you already, that number one, I had never heard of before in my life. This wasn't on my radar. I wasn't, I keep my ear to the conspiracy theory streets, and this one ain't buzzing, number one. But then number two also is one that I didn't realize a person could be as passionate about as you've described your mother to be about this one. So this is exciting, and I'm going to make sure I get the phrasing exactly as you gave it to me. You said, my mama told me.
White gravy is for white people, and brown gravy is for Black people.
That's correct.
Tell me more.
Okay. So I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. Pretty Black city, all Black surroundings. High school, 99% Black, except for white Mike, and his name wasn't Mike.
Okay.
Principal
was
Black.
That a play on that Mr. Cooper spinoff thing?
It was a play on the Wayans brothers character.
Right. It wasn't Mr. Cooper, it was Wayans brothers.
Before
and then didn't he get his own spinoff on the WB?
Yeah. Nick Freno with a do-rag, sleeping on the couch with white Mike. That's what we call the one white person in our school.
Great.
Yeah, so I get to college, I get to the University of Georgia, a school that I think at the time was 8% Black, like complete culture shock. First time really being around white people, like all day, every day, And
those are those big corn-fed white people. Those ain't just that's not like a casual introduction into white people that sort of look and move like you do. These are big old country whites.
Yeah. No, they're not the whites I was watching on the OC. It's definitely totally different. Yeah. No, the people across the hall did dip. So yeah, my first time seeing that type of thing. And so we are in the dining halls in University of Georgia, award winning, like the best food. We have one dining hall that's 24 hours, just food at any time, just, pushing those metabolisms to the limit.
Sure.
So we get there and at breakfast, sometimes they have biscuits, but then they have white gravy.
Yeah.
And that was my first time eating it, and it was good. I liked it. Then I feel like we went to Cracker Barrel or something with my mom one time. She came in town, we went to Cracker Barrel, and I had sausage gravy with my biscuit. And you would have thought I had like a Nazi tattoo or something. You would have thought I had like something crazy happened. She just was so mad, and she was like, you're not supposed to be eating a white gravy. And I'm like, what? I didn't know. And so then, and my sister was like, yeah, you're not supposed to be eating white gravy. I might as well have brought a white girl home. Like that. Sure. That's how they were treating me. They were acting like I betrayed my race by bringing white gravy.
Well, there's so much here that I love because in a beautiful way, you went off to college to better yourself. Do you know what I mean? You went off to go get the education that I imagine your parents worked very hard to encourage you to get and provide for you and all the things. You go off to college. They're sitting at home and they're thinking, our sweet boy, our sweet boy, he's done it. He's finally made it. And you're secretly at college eating the devil's topping. You're just dipping biscuits in the devil's juice. And unbeknownst to your mother, who then takes you to Cracker Barrel, which already is a problematic position for her to take if she's worried about you.
My mom loves Cracker Barrel. To hate white gravy and love Cracker Barrel. There's a picture of us, it's on IG somewhere. We're in rocking chairs waiting to go into Cracker Barrel. My grandmother loves Cracker Barrel. Even when they came out hey, there's some racist issues, we stopped going for maybe a year. Maybe in 98 we stopped going. And then 99 we went right back to Cracker Barrel.
She took a quick respite, just a little break in the midst of the developing millennium. She said, I'll step back. I'll give this a second, but then I'll come back to Cracker Barrel because I can't get enough of it.
Once Jesse Jackson got everything straight at Cracker Barrel, we were right back in there.
But the more beautiful thing is she takes you to what one could argue is maybe one of the whitest restaurants that exists, certainly in the South, and then gets angry at you, feels betrayed by you even, when she realizes that you have now subscribed to some of the white dishes that this white restaurant serves.
Mm-hmm. With cracker in the name.
Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Okay, so she says this to you. She goes, you're not supposed to be eating that. Your sister says, you're not supposed to be eating that. What do you then do? Do you then spit it out your mouth and you say, I'll never do this again? Or do you stand up for your right to eat this white gravy?
I just stand up for the fact that it just seemed ridiculous.
Sure.
I just was like, we eat sausage. You're cool with sausage. You're cool with sausage patties, links, however, but for some reason, when it's in a gravy, it's a problem.
Yeah. What do you think it is? What do you think triggers her so much that makes the white gravy so offensive?
I think that my mom is a New Yorker.
Okay.
And so she was a transplant to the South. And I think she associates white gravy with the Old South.
Oh. That is a very astute observation because I'll be honest, not having spent much time in the South at all, growing up I wasn't even aware of white gravy. White gravy isn't necessarily a common thing where I'm from, certainly not in like the major cities of like the North and Midwest. Like we ain't fucking around in white gravy. All our gravy dark skinned where I'm from. You know what I'm saying? And it certainly ain't as much of a breakfast thing as it is like gravies for big old hearty meals that ain't breakfast.
For sure. And in my travels, I have learned that people outside of the South don't know how to do white gravy. And so it's one of those things where, you know, if you get the wrong white gravy, it will turn you off forever. You're like, I'm never putting that goo on my biscuit ever again. It's not sweet and it's not good.
No.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you got to have the right white gravy in order to really appreciate it. I have a theory that no matter where you're from, everyone loves their trash.
Say more. I like this. I like where you're heading.
Okay, so, you know, like you'll meet someone, they'll be from a place, and they'll be like, you had to grow up with it. You had, you know, you go to Nebraska, they're like, you ever had a runza? And it's like the sandwich, it's got onions, it's kind of like the bread is fried and everything. Will tear your stomach up if you didn't grow up with it. But if you grew up with it, it's great, you know, like Philly cheesesteaks, like, you know, like Mexican food out here, like, you know, everybody has their food that you know you shouldn't be eating, but because you have nostalgia for it, you love it.
100%. And where I'm from, we used to be able to go to a corner store, buy a bag of Flamin' Hots, and then you could get the dude in the back to put some like meat and some nacho cheese on top of the Flamin' Hots in the bag. So it'd just be like a pocket of nachoed Flamin' Hots, and you eat it with a fork, and that shit used to fucking bang. You know what I mean? Like as a young person.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I fucking, but I loved it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would die for that shit, and I would defend my house and home in honor of a bag of Flaming Hots covered in nacho cheese and unproofed meat. You know what I mean? But now if talking to a person who obviously didn't grow up with that experience, I fully respect that you go, hey dog, don't do that no more.
Yeah. No, if I saw that at 8, I'm like, I'm game.
Yeah.
But, you know, no, in my 30s, I'm like, that's a bag of Flaming Hots might take me out now.
Sure.
But, you know, like in the middle of the country, they have Culver's, a place that will sell you cheese curds and a milkshake. Right. And it's like, that should be illegal. That should be illegal.
That literally is just selling a cork for your anus. Like, it's not, you might as well just cork your anus directly and just call it that.
But I did a school in Wisconsin, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to come to Culver's again. So I like their ice cream. I like the cheese curds. I'm going to try to do them both.
And you haven't shit since. I respect that you took that risk.
People love White Castle. You know?
Oh, I love White Castle.
Right? Like, people who grew up around White Castle love White Castle. My father's from Louisville, Kentucky. They're a big White Castle town.
Yeah.
So I
big White Castle town.
White Castle's huge in Louisville. Like, that's, you
what
know.
A sad statement to say about anywhere that somebody lives, to be like, yeah, it's a big White Castle town. Like, oh, the judgment and just shitting on them without saying it directly that you're doing by calling them a big White Castle town is chef's kiss, you know?
But so I know their love for White Castle, but then when I got to New York, it was like, oh, these people never had good White Castle, so they don't respect it. So they're not making it like, oh, White Castle could be good. You know, like, there's a difference between Ohio White Castle and New York, Brooklyn, you know, Bushwick White Castle. Like,
yes. When we were, and you and I were in New York around the same sort of like era, when we were in New York, there were like 2 White Castles that I at least was aware of. There are 3. There were two. There was one in Bed-Stuy. There was one in Bushwick across from Legion Bar where that open mic was. And then finally there was one in the Bronx. No, it was Harlem. Up like when you were trying to go to the airport, you could like get off on like one of the Harlem stops and then be at a White Castle and then catch the bus to get to the airport. All of those places, while I did eat at all three of those locations. And listen, I'm a fan. I'm a fan first. I'm a fan always. White Castle, if you want to do an endorsement with me, God damn it, I'll take the minimum. I'm just a fan of your work, fellas. Mr. Castle, I love what you do. That said, I agree with you. They're not putting the same effort, care, love into them little ass burgers and onions that you would find in a state that prides itself on good White Castle.
Nashville, the furthest south White Castle goes. So, so on our way to Louisville, go through Nashville. That's the first time you can get the White Castle. Nashville's special. They got Crystals and White Castle. It's amazing. Yeah.
That's like that meme with the Crip and the Blood tie their flags together.
That's what that is for sure. For sure. So yeah, but when I got to Brooklyn, I'm like, there's a White Castle walking distance from my house.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go there. And then I just felt the like disbelief in like, you could see everything that's going on in the back. And I could just feel like, oh, these people, they don't believe in good fast food. They can't make good fast food because they don't believe in good fast food.
No, they think they're better than this and therefore can't make the product that it deserves to be. You know what I mean? It's no different, frankly, than fucking drugs, right? That like at the end of the day, there is a difference between like shit heroin and great heroin. And it's neither one of them is good for you, but you want the good heroin. And at least the Midwest and the South, when it comes to fast food and some of the other less coveted things, they at least take the time to make the good version of the bad thing, if that makes sense.
But see, they don't have corner stores. In New York, they got corner stores. They'll make a sandwich next to where you buying random groceries.
That's fair.
And that's acceptable. But, in the South, if you get a hot dog next to, where you buy your lottery tickets, it's highly frowned upon.
Okay, so where do you stand now in the white gravy conversation? Are you still a white gravy advocate? Have you backed off of your white gravy beliefs? Where do you live in this whole spectrum?
Okay, I treat white gravy like how like liberals with conservative parents treat their views. Like, I'm not gonna bring white gravy home for the holidays, But on my own time, I might sneak and have some white gravy while I'm in the South.
Yeah. Damn. Okay.
But I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I had some biscuits, and then open the whole conversation of, oh, what'd you put on your biscuit? I'm not going to do that.
You're not coming home and like taking a big stance where you're like, Mom, I'm a white gravy man. Fuck it.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
I'm sick of this. Accept me for who I am.
I'm not going to ruin Christmas. I'm not going to do that.
That's fair. And honestly, that to me feels like the more reasonable approach to something that makes your family uncomfortable. Like, even politically, socially, gravely, I think you at some point just have to go, this is for me. It's not for them. And as long as I am not hurting them and they are not hurting me, we can live with these things separately. They don't have to accept every element of who I am in order for us to be able to function and enjoy each other.
That's real. That's real. I think also I don't know how to make it. If I knew how to make white gravy, it might be like another story. Because then I could just whip some up in the kitchen and just really drive everybody crazy. But because I don't know how to make it, that's another thing.
Do you think your mom has ever had white gravy? Is this like a green eggs and ham type situation?
It might be. It might be a green eggs and ham sprinkled with a little, civil rights movement
Yeah.
and yeah, slavery and whatnot. But green eggs and ham for sure.
I'm sure in the Dr. Seuss universe, green eggs and ham comes from a dark history of of abuse and fucking, genocide. There's probably genocide behind the green eggs and ham. That Sam I Am character, he had a much more complicated stance than the book, I think, leads us to believe,
Yeah, no, there's a reason why they're making people try green eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's like food is scarce.
Yes. 100%. Food is scarce. These green eggs are all we have left, and they come from a terribly dark history. But, you got to try them, apparently. And honestly, that's how they get you, because they trick you into submitting to what's left. And the what's left, it comes from pain. It comes from tragedy. It comes from hurt that you can't uncook, that you can't unboil or scramble, if you will.
In a box with a fox.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Do you feel like your mother or your family in general have other sort of like foods that they associate with like specifically white people that they would be equally sort of flabbergasted by you choosing to like eat or introduce to the family?
I don't know. I can't think of another instance. I'm trying to think of other foods. This is the one my family's really like, that's the thing. We're like, we're not that family. Like, we're not that, like, my mom makes casseroles.
Oh.
like of all the people in the world, like, this is where she draws the line. But she's flirting with some stereotypes that are not with Black people. Like, my mom makes green bean casserole sometimes for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I've never had that from a Black person.
Yeah. I never understood spinach casserole. It's like, all casseroles to me are the same. They just take a vegetable and then make it worse. It looks nice, but it's like, I'd rather just have this vegetable by itself. It's probably better.
I didn't grow up with casseroles. I don't know a lot about them. I did really like, and granted, this is worth noting, I have a very shitty palate, right?
Okay.
Like my taste buds don't work well. I'll pretty much eat anything. I am not a particularly picky person, nor a particularly discerning person when it comes to the food that I'll put in my mouth. But I did genuinely love like tuna helper. And I feel like tuna helper was as close to a casserole as my family could find itself. You know what I mean? It's essentially casserole. It's just now in a box. And most people would be like, you should kill yourself for eating that. And I'd be like, as long as I'm buried with some tuna casserole, I'll kill myself right now.
Tuna helper, man. Yeah, I don't. What is tuna helper? Is it put it with the tuna? Or it's its own thing?
No, it's an offshoot of Hamburger Helper. It was Hamburger Helper being like, we killed the game on hamburger. Now let's fuck around in other meats.
Oh.
And then they use tuna fish, and much in the way that you would with Hamburger Helper, you're basically you're mixing their seasonings and pre-ingredients with the meat that you purchase to create a noodle/meat casserole to serve to unsuspecting victims.
Okay. This sounds smelly. It sounds like it doesn't smell good. But I've definitely had Hamburger Helper. We definitely grew up with the glove for sure. But yeah, I didn't go that far into the tuna helper side of things.
If you're not in the helper multiverse, what are you doing? You know? It's a delightful meal if you don't have great standards for what a good meal is. Okay, let me ask you this last question, then we'll go to break. Do you feel like your mother in any way has changed, because you're telling me this happened when you were in college. This was, so I assume at least a decade ago that this experience happened. Do you feel like there's any chance that your mother has come around to now appreciate or at least respect white gravy differently than she did before?
I mean, I think she knows it won't kill you because I'm around. But other than that, I think, I don't think my mom will ever eat white gravy. I think it's a wrap.
Damn.
I don't really know the origin. Like, I don't know, what happened to her, or what, if she sees whites only when she sees the gravy getting put on the plate or what. But yeah, if there was some kind of paper bag test or something, then yeah, but I
do like to imagine your mother as a young child dining somewhere with her family, and then a mean white man walks into a restaurant and splashes her in the face with a cup of hot gravy, hot white gravy, and that just, it marred her, it scarred her, it left her with this bad taste in her mouth that she'll never be able to recover from. And then you, her beautiful baby boy, does the most, I guess, offensive thing that you could have done by eating the poison right in front of her.
Damn, that's sad. I gotta ask her now. I gotta ask her. We gotta get my mom on the phone.
Ask her. Did she get splashed with white gravy as a child?
Is that why we listen to so much Al Green growing up?
Because she can relate. He got splashed with grits, y'all.
Grits is probably far worse than gravy.
I think
there's a connection.
think Al Green will tell you firsthand it's way worse. All right, we're gonna take a break. We'll be back with more Rob Haze and more My Mama Told Me. And we are back.
How is my man supposed to schmeat his meat with this shit, bro? What the fuck?
Yeah, we're back here with more Rob Haze, more My Mama Told Me. We're still talking about that infamous white gravy and whether or not it is in fact the work of the white devil, whether the white man is the true owner of white gravy. And if us, the black people, the people of color in the world are meant to strictly stay on the colored gravy side of the line. That's the conversation at hand. Do you think that are other races struggling with this same conversation? I said people of color, but I don't know if this is like are you know what I mean? Are there brown people wondering if they too need to avoid white gravy because of the white man's influence?
I don't think it's a black white thing. I think it's a POC white thing. I think people of color are supposed to have brown gravy, and white gravy is purely for white people.
That's pretty fucked up. I'll say that people of color all get lumped into a single gravy, or at least the darker gravies, and white people just get to hold on to an entire, you know what I mean? They got a whole little sector to themselves.
It's not one gravy, but it's one color. So, like the gravy they put on A Fu Young at the Chinese restaurant looks like
gravy.
Soul food gravy that you put on stuffing, looks like, like all the POC gravy looks the same. The only gravy that doesn't look the same is sausage gravy.
White gravy. God damn it. Okay. Well, I did some research that I would love to unpack with you. And I hope that there's some of this that might be a little illuminating for both of us.
Okay.
And I encourage you to refute and discuss as much as you wish, because some of this I don't know is necessarily hugely even on topic to what you've introduced, but I do think introduces a bunch of interesting conversations. So
okay,
it's a pretty hard topic to look up via Google search. Do you know what I mean? It's not an easily Googleable thing. I typed in do black people like white gravy? And then it just ended up being like a bunch of fat ass Southern people saying very jarring things about how much they like putting gravy on everything they eat.
Okay.
Like everything. Like there was people talking about, at one point somebody said they consider gravy more of a beverage than a topping.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
I didn't care for it at all. I felt sick. I had to walk away, and then I came back. Not new, but different for sure.
Because once gravy cools, it's a different thing. It's no longer liquid.
Yeah. And if it congeals and starts to separate,
yeah. Ugh.
But somebody's drinking it anyway. There does seem to be, and this starts to get into some of the history of this whole white gravy thing. There does seem to be an actual origin of sausage gravy, which I didn't realize. They've traced the actual origin of sausage gravy to Southern Appalachia in the late 1800s, Civil War time. You know what I mean? Right around them Civil War times, them whiteys came up with white gravy.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It was originally apparently called sawmill gravy because it was cheap and calorie dense and an easy go-to meal to feed the sawmill workers of the area. Particularly, they would be, having to spend all day carrying this lumber and doing all this shit to make sure that black people stayed, I guess, as property.
Okay.
And, they had to be fed. And so an easy way to feed them was with thick ass bread and an additional like topping of gravy, which was easy to make, and it would fill them up for the day.
Remind me, what is a sawmill?
Sawmill, I believe, refers to basically just the lumber. Like that's where they like make lumber and saw it and turn it into other shit.
Got you. Plantation wood.
Hell yeah. I also could be very wrong, Rob. I am what's known as almost smart. I don't actually know some stuff, and I just talk in a way that makes me seem like I might actually know what I'm talking about.
You have me fooled. I always default to you. When I'm around Langston, it's always like, all right, well, Langston's a smart guy.
Nah, man.
He says it's fact.
I say a lot of stupid stuff. I got in an argument the other day with a few friends because I didn't realize that babies are born in a sack. Do you know what I mean? Like we were having an argument where it was suggested that some babies can come out in the sack that's inside the mother's womb. And I was very defiant. I said, no, there is no sack. The womb is the sack. What the fuck are you all talking about? And then we looked it up, and there is, in fact, a sack that's connected to the placenta. That sort of is what the baby lives in. And it's true. Some babies do come out in the sack. And I think that's where serial killers come from.
That's what the stork is holding on to. That baby sack.
That's a real fucked up image. If you look up baby sack, you're not gonna like that bit in your head anymore.
I'm not gonna look up baby sack right now just because of what else might pop up. But
sure,
on my own dark mode, I might look up baby sack.
You look up baby sack, you going to jail, playboy. So, one of the more fascinating parts of all of this that I didn't realize is that the gravy seems to have not been only a function of adding calories to a meal, but it also seems to have been a way of softening the very thick bread of this time, because apparently the first biscuits of America, the first biscuits that were being made at this time, were much denser and sturdier than the biscuits that we find in a restaurant today. They were thick, like dumb thick.
So Popeyes is keeping it like OG.
Yeah, Popeyes is like, we ain't changed the game once.
Yeah, Popeyes taking it back to the sawmill.
And like, if this was good enough to feed the sawmill boys, this is good enough to feed your black ass. Enjoy our thick biscuits. So these biscuits that I'm referring to were originally known as beaten biscuits, right? Beaten biscuits because they got their leavening from being vigorously beaten and folded. Sometimes it would take an entire hour just to be able to beat the dough into something usable to be able to turn into biscuits. So it required a shit ton of labor. And you guessed it, Rob. Who do you think was responsible for doing that super taxing labor?
The Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, oh boy, very different colored Pillsbury Doughboy. They did call him boy, but he wasn't no Pillsbury. It was slaves.
Damn.
Niggas were responsible for this very physical labor. And they were the ones that were making these beaten biscuits. Now, here's where it gets even crazier, because these beaten biscuits are being made by slaves. Then the Civil War happens. Then the 13th Amendment kicks in, and it's no longer reasonable, right, to keep slaves. They're very upset about that. And then white people basically say that, and this is a real thing that was quoted from some book that some very smart person wrote about this, but that basically white people took the stance that it had come to be viewed as too burdensome to keep making biscuits. They were like, fuck this. It's too much work. I don't even want to do this shit because of how sucky the labor was.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then what happened to biscuits?
Great question. So in 1877, a machine was invented for doing the work that would have had to been done by Black people. They basically they found a cotton gin, if you will, to help leaven this bread. And it turned out that it actually made, and this is, again, a white person talking about their own invention, but saying it saved beaten biscuits from extinction, but actually made them smoother, prettier, and more popular than before.
I mean, biscuits got to be good for it to only take like 10 years before somebody's like, we got to invent something to like make this easier. Like, we got to do something because this is, the slaves are free, the Reconstruction, they in Congress now. We got to do something to get these biscuits back popular. My mom shouldn't be mad at the gravy.
No.
She should be mad at the biscuits.
Yeah, I think the biscuits made things pretty complicated because the gravy really was just a response to a need that was being presented. I do love, though, the idea that there was somebody, like you're saying, sitting back and thinking to themselves, you know what, man, I don't even really miss slavery that much, but goddamn, I miss them biscuits.
I miss those biscuits, man.
Them niggas made good biscuits. I want my biscuits back. And they built a machine to try to solve this problem. So they invent this machine, right? And it starts to make me question. It introduces a question in my mind. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Because to me, the question, this whole John Henry machine versus man thing that's happening where they go, the machine finally could do the thing that no man up to that point was able to do. I don't buy that shit. A part of me starts to believe, Rob, that maybe these slaves were intentionally leaving those beaten biscuits extra thick with the hopes that their oppressors might choke to death and then they could escape to freedom before they were supposed to, if you will.
Oh, and you think that they were being saved by the white gravy?
Yes. Or not saved, but certainly kept in chains even longer.
No. I'm saying the white people were supposed to choke on the biscuit.
Yes.
But the white gravy came in and
fucked up the game.
Saved the oppressor. Yeah.
Exactly.
Damn. Wow.
So your mom might be onto something.
She's onto something.
Yes. It's devastating if true.
I was so hungry the first half of this podcast. I was gonna go get some, I was gonna go to the store, get some biscuits and make some biscuits. And now I'm not.
That's fair. Now you got to do the right thing.
I got to do the right thing. I had so many carbs ahead of me before you told me about the history of this biscuit. What's this biscuit machine called?
I don't know. I didn't take the care to look up the magic biscuit maker. But apparently a motherfucker built a biscuit machine and we benefited from it somehow. One of the things that I didn't, because I didn't know anything about white gravy before this, really. I've had it. I ain't really that big of a fan, but I certainly didn't grow up on the shit. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that sort of came to my mind is, what's the difference, right? Like, why is white gravy such a big deal? And part of the reason, and this to me was a really illuminating part of all of this research, is that the birth of white gravy was largely a function of poverty. So in order to make the white gravy, all you needed was the sort of drippings from a sausage pan, flour, milk, or water. Like, it was very basic ingredients that were at that point easy to come by, especially in the heart of war times, right? And so they created this white gravy, not because it was the best tasting version of what gravy could be, but because it was simple, it was functional, it could last a long time, and it could stretch the shit out of a meal. And so in a beautiful way, it sort of feels like a metaphor for the way that white citizens position themselves in America. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Because it's poverty, but it's like, hey, they pulling themselves up by their sausage straps.
Yeah, I think yes. The sausage straps is sort of what I'm going for. I think in a way it's them being like, yo, we still continue to take pride, because now white gravy is a point of pride in the South, right? It is a thing that white citizens will advocate for and fight for. I read all these different comments online where people were like, white gravy it has to be made this way. It's a Southern staple. It cannot be, ruined or treated poorly, whatever it is. And I think they have been trained to create pride where pride should not exist. That this should not be a thing that you're celebrating. It should be a thing that you look back and go, yo, we were being mistreated by our country. We're sitting here and going, this is America, white gravy. And it's like, yeah, America was treating you like shit, dog.
Yeah, but not only that, it's also saying like, hey, look where we came from. We came from this. Meanwhile, you had slaves making the biscuits.
Mm-hmm. 100%. You are taking pride in something that you didn't truly create. And then the thing that you did create was mostly created because of a limited amount of resources provided to you by the thing you take the most pride in. It's all a sick game that's sort of being, played on poor white people. And I think the white gravy is a perfect reflection of that.
I didn't know we was going to get this deep.
Yeah, dog. We don't fuck around on this podcast.
I didn't know we was going to get this deep, man. I should have known when I signed a release. I've never signed a release for a podcast before. This is amazing, man. This is like Henry Louis Gates type of stuff, but about gravy.
That nigga Henry Louis Gates wishes he could talk about gravy. You can talk about Nas's grandfather all you want, Henry. We got to get into the real shit, which is gravy. I do genuinely believe that the white gravy, while polarizing, does feel like this really important metaphor because, and this is also where it was a very illuminating moment for me because I didn't realize this, that apparently at the time, butter and syrup were far more difficult to come by in the South and for specifically, poorer white people. Butter was like something you had to really work hard to find, and syrup was like crazy hard to find, right? And so I grew up, in my world, we put jelly and fucking butter or syrup or whatever it is on a biscuit. And for these people, they didn't have that resource. And so white gravy becomes the other option.
I might be converted, man. I might be converted. I might not ever have white gravy again. I feel like I feel bad, yo. I feel like crazy.
Hey, man, your mother, she sat you down. She tried to talk to you and put something in your head, and you let that slip pass. And you need to apologize to her. You need to call her and say, I'm sorry, Mom. I was bugging on this whole white gravy position.
I forgot to mention my mom's a history teacher.
Oh. So, yeah, she kind of knew ahead of time.
She might already knew. She might know what the machine's called and everything, man. Like, yo, everybody listening, call your mom, man, for real.
I love that you're like, I forgot to mention my mom specifically studied the biscuit machine. She got a master's degree in biscuit machine of 1888. So
yeah, her thesis was biscuit machine. I forgot about that.
God damn. Well, we learned a lot, and we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more Rob Haze and more My Mama Told Me. And we are back. Yeah, we're back here with more Rob Haze, more My Mama Told Me. We're still talking about that devil mix, white gravy, the poison that is a perfect metaphor for the evil that white people have continuously bought into in this country, in America. God damn it, Rob. How are you feeling right now? Where are you with all of this?
I mean, I came into this podcast thinking that I broke the color line, thinking that I was the Jackie Robinson of white gravy. And now I know that I am a traitor. I am an Uncle Tom.
Damn.
And what they were eating in his cabin was biscuits and white gravy.
Fuck. You know what? I'll say this. It's hard to hear. I don't know what to say to you, so I'll just do this.
Come on. Hell no. To the no, no, no. Hell to the no. Hell to the no. To the no, no.
I hope that's at least a little bit of solace for you to be able to walk home with. I don't know. It's hard to see.
I mean, I am home, but I'm going to have to walk around the block or something because it's a lot.
Oh, man. Okay. If you can find the strength, I'd love to play a game. Let's play a game.
Okay.
Shall we? This is a fun game. It's a classic game on the show. It's a really fun game. Let me find my drop. It's a game called
Homemade Hotep.
Homemade Hotep. It's a fun game where, Rob, I'm going to introduce to you a very real fact out in the world, a relatively objective fact out in the world. I'm not going to go so bold as to say anything's objective anymore, but a pretty objective fact out in the world. And what I would love for you to do, Rob, is put on your Hotep hat and just Hotep the shit out of this fact. Really get into the nooks and crannies, the secrets, the mischief, all the shit that might be hidden underneath this supposedly real fact. Does that make sense?
That makes all the sense in the world.
Hell yeah. This is a fun one. I'm excited to share this one with you. But apparently, it is very true that during a renovation of his final home in 1998, there were apparently a dozen bodies found in Benjamin Franklin's basement. That Benjamin Franklin, a man who's on $100 bill, a lot of people mistake him for having been a president of the United States. He wasn't. He just is on our money sometimes. Apparently had a dozen bodies hidden in his basement. Rob, go crazy.
Okay. Benjamin Franklin had hundreds of bodies in his basement. A dozen bodies in his basement. Okay. I mean, I feel like there's an easy route you could already go of who those people are.
Yeah.
One thing you got to know about Benjamin Franklin is that, Benjamin Franklin started a newspaper, right?
Yeah.
When he was a child. And the newspaper was anti-British. Him and his family had to flee town, go to another town. He started another newspaper.
Yep.
So he was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Just like Diddy when he was a child. He was an entrepreneur. He had to go to Howard, back to Harlem. Diddy made All About the Benjamins.
Oh.
Where's Total? Where's Mace? Where's Loon? Where's Shine? Diddy had to climb on a lot of black people in order to get to prominence.
Whoa.
Benjamin Franklin had to do the same.
Damn.
He had a Loon. He had a Shine. He had a Total. He had a Faith.
Ooh.
He had a baby that was bad.
So you're telling me that in essence, Benjamin Franklin has his Babs Bunny hiding in the basement, locked up in the basement that he had to bury in order to meet his greater success.
He had to close down things from time to time. He had a Die-Line. He had a Chopper. He had a Fred. He had a Ness. He had a Babs. He had a Sarah. He had a Sarah's husband. You know what I'm saying? He was making a band. Benjamin Franklin was making a band.
Whoa.
And he had to shut it down. And that meant locking the door. And, you know, nobody could get out. Nobody could get out. It was a wrap.
Damn. This is
because they didn't want to do the challenges. They didn't want to buckle his shoes. They didn't want to. They didn't want to walk. You know, walk to the peach tree.
They didn't want to pick up the cheesecake with the kite and the key on it. Walk outside with this kite and this key if you want to be in the Benjamin Franklin band.
Yeah. When was Benjamin Franklin around? 1700s?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that the 1700s Die-Line didn't want to do that. So
I don't actually in the basement. I love that. God damn it.
That's called motherfucking bars, nigga. You know nothing about
that. Was beautiful. I think you nailed it. You know what I love about it is that it reminds us that the same games continue to be played to this day. Maybe not in saying, you know, Benjamin Franklin apparently could get away with murder in a way that you and I, and maybe even Diddy cannot do today, but Diddy can get away with a type of murder of people's career, a type of stepping on the shoulders of the people in front of him. And that's all capitalism is to some extent, is we're all just figuring out a way to take advantage of a person for the sake of our own successes and gains.
That's deep.
It's deep, man. You really spit some bars today. Rob, I think we did it. I think we nailed the whole episode. Could you tell the people at home where they can find you and what cool stuff you have going on?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram at Rob Haze, ROBHAZE. You can find me on Twitter at Robert is the Man. I have an album called Hazepedia. It's on all streaming platforms. I'm on Sneak This, the world's only sketch show all about sneaker culture on BR Kicks. And I'm on Sherman Showcase, which you can find our old episodes on Hulu. And season 2 coming soon on AMC and IFC.
Hell yeah. Please follow Rob. Please fuck with Sneak This. It's very funny and silly. I already told you in person. I've enjoyed many episodes of it. It's great. And as always, you can follow me at Langston Kerman. And you can please subscribe to the podcast and leave comments and send us drops and ideas to mymommapod@gmail.com. And if you live in Los Angeles or in the greater metropolitan Los Angeles area, I'd love for you to come to my monthly show that happens at a place called the Hotel Cafe. It's in West Hollywood. It's very nice, and it's a fun monthly show. Our next one will be December 15th, and you should come. I would love to see your faces. Please don't disappoint me. I'll beat you. Okay, that's it. Bye, bitch.
Peace. I went to the last one. It's fire.